Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So last time we were talking about the tajalliyat, God's revelations and epiphanies and self-disclosures that don't repeat. They're always new. Um, which is why every moment in the cosmos is actually a new moment, right? Good to have you with us. So that means not only is it a new moment, but each thing is a new thing each moment. So the pencil that I'm holding in my hand um, is a pencil in one moment, and then in the next moment, it's a new pencil. It's not the same one because Allah recreates the pencil and everything each moment. Because of that, the real Gnostic, the real Arif Billah, the real saint, the real sage, doesn't get bored. He or she doesn't get bored. So let's find out why. God's perpetual self disclosures to the creatures mean that creation is renewed at each instant. Hence, no one with any understanding of the nature of the things can suffer boredom, melal, whether in this world or the next. By the way, that's why, I think I might have mentioned this before, that's why in paradise and Jannah, the garden, there's no boredom. You know, it's very different to that TV show, which is called The Good Place, because the whole climax of The Good Place is that when they finally get to the good place, which is heaven, um, the main character Chibi gets bored at some point because you can only enjoy going to Paris so many times, even if it's 1,000 times. You get bored at some point. So he wanted to move on to the next stage of spiritual evolution, which was just to be annihilated, to have his consciousness merged with the universe or something like that. But he needed to move beyond. So paradise, at least in Islamic understanding, isn't like that because each moment is new. It's never repeated. So he says, the men of knowledge, al-ulama, are forever joyful, but others remain in the shadows of bewilderment, wandering astray in this world and the next. Were it not for the renewal of creation at each instant, boredom would overcome the entities, since nature requires boredom. This requirement, now, why does nature require boredom? He's taking it as an assumption, but probably because boredom is a synonym for stability. Like, in order for nature to function, nature requires physical customs. Like, I use the word customs because I'm thinking of the Arabic word, but it's like a kind of physical regularity. In order for nature to function, it requires stability, um, it requires consistency. Like, if there is no consistency in nature, there'd be pure chaos, right? Um, this requirement decrees that the entities must be renewed. That is why the messenger of God said about God, God does not become bored such that you should become bored, right? Since God knows the reality of things, by definition, he doesn't become bored, even though he has knowledge from pre eternity. So the boredom of the cosmos is identical with the boredom of the real, but no one in the cosmos becomes bored except him who has no unveiling and does not witness the renewal of creation constantly at each instant and does not witness God as ever creating perpetually. Boredom takes place only as the result of unceasing companionship, istishab, which is one way to translate that word. Um, any questions or thoughts? Okay. In the following passage, Ibn al-Arabi is discussing the nature of curtaining, sitr, which is the opposite of disclosure. God does not really place anything behind a curtain, but our ignorance prevents us from seeing the realities as they are in themselves. He placed no veil upon you but yourself. So literally like your own self, like your own ego, your own identity. My I-ness, my me-ness is the veil over yourself. You are identical with the curtain over yourself. The greatest of veils are two. One which is like extrasensory, super sensory, ma'nawi, which translates into meaning, like, like the world of meanings. So one veil is a kind of um, extrasensory veil, which is called ignorance, and the other veil is a sensory one, which is you yourself. It is only ignorance which leads us to think that God is curtained and not disclosing, and not self-disclosing, not self-revealing. So he's actually revealing himself to you all the time, but it's our ignorance that prevents us from realizing that. But he's actually doing it all the time. Um, and I love this idea because it's present in so many traditions, whether it's Christianity or Greek paganism and Islam. It's all there. Some people do not know that at every instant God has a self-disclosure which does not take the form of the previous self-disclosure. When such a person lacks this perception, he may become the unceasing companion of a single self-disclosure in his mind, right? And its witnessing may become drawn out for him, prolonged. Hence, boredom will overcome him. But boredom in this station is lack of reverence. It's lack of presence toward the divine side, since they are in confusion as to a new creation at every instant. They imagine that the situation is not changing, and so a curtain is let down uh, over them because of the boredom which leads to irreverence after God has deprived them of knowledge of themselves and Him. So they imagine that they are in each instant. So they imagine that they are they. Okay. So they imagine that they are they in each instant. And they are they in respect of their substantiality, but not in respect of their attributes. So that's a packed phrase in the last sentence. Maybe he's taking the Ash'ari view on this point, but it's like your substance remains the same, but not your attributes, right? And those are renewed at each and every second. Yes, Hannah, go ahead.
By substance, does he mean like in thabita, or is that something else?
Yeah, see, I'd have to check the Arabic. That's a good question. Because certainly in terms of your ain thabit, you are who you are. This is totally correct. But I think here in this context, I think he means just like an actual substance, like a physical substance, right? Like the actual physical body of a person remains the same, um, which is the Ash'ari view, by the way. But he critiques that view. But then your attributes are not consistent. So like, what are your attributes? I guess like knowledge, um, like your will. That's not consistent every second. That's renewed. So he's saying like those attributes that you have, like life, knowledge, will, and power, hearing and sight, those are renewed every second. They don't stay the same every second. That's what I got out of the last sentence. But yeah, but the last sentence is also like a bit oblique to me as well.
Sorry, yeah, because it's a bit weird, isn't it? Because at one point he's saying that everything is changing all
Yes.
the time, and then how come the substance doesn't change as well then?
Well, you're absolutely right. I think, and that is his view. Everything is changing all the time. But maybe sometimes he just takes the view of the person he's criticizing. So he's just taking their view, but that's not his view.
Yeah, yeah.
Because in the previous sentence he says, so they imagine. So I suppose he's talking about someone else. So they imagine that they are they in each instant. And it's true from a certain point of view. That's what I got. And it is true from a certain point of view in respect to their substantiality. So he's just taking their argument, but that's not his actual view. Because Ibn Arabi is like a master of being able to see people's different points of views. And then he goes, yeah, sure, I get what you mean. And he goes, yeah, you're right from a certain perspective. I've never seen him tell someone you're 100% wrong. Because that's the station and knowledge that he occupies, where he's able to see from other people's points of views and see every single point of view. So I think that's what's happening in this last sentence. Yeah, go ahead, Irvina.
Assalamu alaikum.
Right,
You mentioned the substantiality as being the body, but I was before you answered this, I was thinking it in relation to the heart and the spirit and the nafs too, in a way. And I was thinking, even though we know a little about the spirit, and a few know about it. But is it related in any way to this kind of substance that we have, or to the Ain al-Thabita? I know that
Yeah.
the heart moves uh, from the psychological perspective, from towards the nafs sometimes and towards the ruh sometimes. Um, but yeah, I was just thinking, is ruh static in that sense?
Oh, what a good question. Hmm. Is the ruh static? I don't know. I think that in the way that, I don't know, like let's say we're talking about a nafs, okay? And the nafs is like what's in between the ruh and the body, right? Um, so the nafs is 100% not static. The nafs is the least static of all things. And I completely agree with that. And I would imagine that the ruh is also not static. Because why is the nafs not static? Because the nafs can be purified and it can be polluted. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Right? You can purify the nafs or you can pollute it. So it's subject to change, which means it's subject to, you know, just like what you were saying right now, like to non-static change, right? It's not static. I think the ruh is even more is even less static. It's even less static than the nafs because the ruh is kind of like this fast-moving thing, reality, right? But it moves so quickly that like you don't notice it. Like in my head, I think of the ruh as like a windy kind of thing, as a windy kind of thing, since ruh and rih are connected to each other linguistically. Ruh and riha,
Hmm.
raih.
Very.
Um, but Allahu Alam. But that's just the first thing that came to my mind when you asked that question.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so between lover and beloved, the pleasure, ladda, of encounter, liqa, is greater than the pleasure of unceasing companionship, right? Because we're talking about how, consistency and constancy and constant companionship and being in the same place constantly is the cause of boredom. That is why God keeps himself separate from his lover, which is a very interesting perspective. Being separate from the one you love definitely does not lead to boredom. Definitely not. It also explains the bliss of paradise. Everyone in the garden is constantly parted from the bliss he enjoys and thereby experiences the ever renewed encounters with the divine display. SubhanAllah, that's a very interesting perspective. Um, what does he mean by at every moment the happy one, the felicitous one in the garden is constantly separated from his bliss? What does that mean? He's constantly parted from the bliss he enjoys.
I'm sorry. Is it just that he's aware that it's ending and being recreated, so he's parted and then being joined up again? I don't know.
Well, each bliss is new and
Yeah,
never repeated.
I'll never repeat it.
So he parts from one bliss just to enjoy the next one.
Yeah. Mm.
And yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. And yes, Irvina, go ahead.
This reminded me of an ayat. Um, there are two similar ayats in the Quran, at least two similar, that
Yes.
the believers are face to face in front of each other, sitting or reclining on couches and in peace somehow. And personally, when I think about that, um, there is no separation in any way, you know. There is the perpetual encounter in this, if we use these terms. So, and at the same times, it is an unceasing companionship somehow. So it's
Hmm.
interesting. Um, reality of the people of Jannah, at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
But for here,
Uh,
I can understand the first sentence there.
you're wondering where is the separation if you're always with your beloved one, right?
Yeah, and where would that separation be in Jannah? If the first sentence, which it says the encounter, liqa, is greater than the pleasure of unceasing
Yes.
companionship. If this was the case uh, in Jannah, where the ikhwan, the brothers and the sisters sit with one another and face to face contemplate one another in a way. So they are constantly in their companionship, and but at the same time they are encountering themselves in a way, right?
They face each other on reclining cushions and chairs and thrones, but that's for a moment. And then at some point they get down from them and do something else. But you know, but yeah, but that's still a good point. Why don't we read the paragraph and see if like it kind of like sheds light on anything. But before we do that, Yaznir, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Right,
Sorry, I didn't catch the beginning, but I was just thinking about it. I mean, of course, Jannah is a different realm, so we can't really project. We can only understand. You know, it's
yes.
something that no eye has seen and all the rest of it. So, but
So
I
actually,
mean,
just the beginning is about boredom and how like there's no boredom in existence, and God
right, right,
is,
right.
is not
Okay,
is
and
not bored of
recreation.
anything. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly,
So,
exactly.
but I was just thinking because I was cooking in terms of like pleasure
Mashallah, and
and
that's not
union, right?
and that's not a boring task at all.
Yeah, so I was thinking about like how because ladha is also something you can say for food. And so
Yes.
when I like enjoy food, I'm separate from the food and I have to be separate in order for me to enjoy the food. And it's like it's a
Interesting. Yes.
tasting, right? So and it's also this thing about like if you actually again, Jinnah is a different realm and there's no boredom there. But here, like if we just in terms of just imagining, you would just go with your best friends every single day, eat out at all times of the day, not just like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It would be boring. But also,
Yes.
that's what I think it's supposed to imply that where there is separation, and oh, you meet them, you separate from them for a bit, and then you meet them again, and then you separate from food or like whatever pleases you in terms of. I'm just using food because ladha I feel like is the same. It also applies to food, ladha and dha'iqa, like tasting,
Yes. Yes.
and
So the yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so it's like this question about one of the reasons why I totally get it is because then that actually implies that the normal levels of Jannah are not enough for the Arif, and which is what it reminds me of Rabi al-Adawiya's poetry, where she says, "Allah give." As for this world, give it to my enemies. As for your paradise, give it to my friends, and you and your face alone be enough for me.
Yes.
So he doesn't want Jannah because Jannah still implies a level of separation. And so then, even in Jannah, it's like, in the Quran, Allah says, وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيد لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ فِيهَا وَلَدَيْنَا مَزِيد. They will have whatever they desire there, and we have mazid. And so the scholar said mazid means it's the face of Allah, it's the meeting with Allah. And so it's
MashaAllah.
like maybe some people won't actually, not every, maybe some people actually want, because we spoke about this earlier, maybe some people want to go to Jannah just to have a Nutella river and they don't want more than that. But people like Rabi al Adawiya, the real lovers, they don't even want the rivers, right? So it's like for them, it's just a spiritual hedonism, like it's just it's a hedonistic place, basically Jannah, which is like just pleasure forever and ever, and that's not enough for them because again, even what Irvina is speaking about, like على الأرائك متكئون متقابلين, right? So it's like even I think the root of that word متقابلين is really interesting. It means like it's one of those words that that is its own opposite in Arabic,
Yes.
which
Yes.
means that face to face. So it can mean like you are friends, but it can also mean that you're opponents. And so, but either way, it implies two faces, right? And it implies separation, and it implies even like opposition and in terms of direction. And no real lover wants that. Like you want like a oneness and a what's it called? Hulul. And so it's like those things are not there in the normal levels of Jannah. That's what I understood.
I mean, I won't object to a river of Nutella. I will say though, Sheikh Al-Akbar criticizes Sister Rabia Al-Adwiya radiallahu anha for that view. He critiques her. But yeah, I think that that's a really amazing point. Thanks, Zanira. Go ahead, Hannah, and then Irvina. Yes.
Sorry, I'd love to hear about how Sheikh Al-Akbar critiques Rabi al-Adawiyya. But what I would just remark was the other thing that I raised my hand about was the story about the sheikh who comes to the village and the villagers go, "Oh, sheikh, come in. Oh, we're so happy to see you." And then, and they're making welcome and all the rest of it. And they're like, "Oh, why don't you stay longer? Why don't you come more often? We wish you would come more often." And he says, "It's because I want you to say, oh, welcome, sheikh. Come in, come in. Not, oh my goodness, not him again."
Brilliant. Yeah.
Good
That's
one,
it.
isn't it? Alhamdulillah.
That is. Irvina, mashallah.
I wanted to say two things. One thing is about the narrative that the Jannah is another realm, another creature and creation, etc., etc. I think that personally, and this is a humble opinion, all the things that are in the Quran are for this world as well. So, in a way, Ibn Taymiyyah or Ibn Qayyim, I think, has said once that if someone doesn't taste the Jannah here, cannot taste the Jannah there.
Oh wow.
So this is one of the things that just because we are talking about Jannah, we are not talking about a world that is beyond, what we are experiencing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would just talk about something that we have no clue. We can talk about Mars, but right now, I personally don't know anything about it, and I really don't care, and I will not go there. But if it wasn't needed, I think that this kind of knowledge wouldn't be here in these books and stuff like that. And another thing is that, with the story Hannah told,
Yes.
I heard a similar story by Shamsi Tabrizi, and he was talking about Hazrat Abu Bakr and another companion of the Prophet alayhi salam. And the Prophet ﷺ said to the other companion that sadly I don't remember the name. He said to him, go and come after 3 days or come after 1 week or something like that. But he didn't say this to Abu Bakr. He said to Abu Bakr, come every day.
I remember that story, by the way. I remember it, yes.
Yeah.
And this is like Shamsuddin Tabrizi trying to teach his students some good manners. Yeah.
How I remember and how I understood, at least, is that basically Abu Bakr was constantly thirsty.
Yes.
For the presence of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, and consequently he was constantly in adab with that presence. He could value that presence in a way. He wouldn't get bored, as the other Sahabi, that he needed that kind of separation between him and Rasulullah in a way to increase the longing and to increase the sensation of worth, as we the others, I think, do, especially with our best friends and our close ones. We get bored sometimes, but I don't know if we could say this for the very, very close ones that are very dear to our heart. So even between lover and beloveds, there are, hierarchies. And I wanted just to point this out because there are layers and layers to this.
Beautiful point, Irvina. That was honestly a beautiful point. Allah barak fiki. Yes, Sahar, and then we'll move on.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
It came to me Surah Al-Najm when Sayyidina Muhammad alayhi salam went to and to see God. في الإسراء والمعراج في المعراج. And لما when he saw الجنة عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى إذ يخشى السدرة ما يخشى ما زاغ البصر وما طغى. يعني he wanted to see God. He didn't want to I mean he didn't go he wouldn't I mean الجنة wouldn't pay
Yes.
wouldn't grab his attention. Only he wants to meet God and see him, and that was the ultimate of the ultimate.
Yes, exactly. He wasn't distracted. Yeah.
Yes.
MashaAllah. Yeah, exactly. Allah يبارك فيك, yeah.
Allah يبارك
Okay.
فيك.
Okay, so the beloved keeps himself absent, غيبة, right, from the lover for the sake of imparting knowledge and teaching courtesy and love. For if the lover is truthful in his claim, while God tests him by the absence of his beloved, then there will appear from the lover a movement of yearning to witness him. Through this yearning, he shows the truth of his claim. Thereby, his station is increased, and his reward through bliss in his beloved is multiplied. For the pleasure which he finds at encounter is greater than the pleasure of unceasing companionship, right? The pleasure you get after being absent and then being with your beloved is greater than just being with your beloved all the time. This is similar to the frightened person who finds the sweetness of reaching security. The sweetness of unceasing security is not nearly as intense. So the bliss, right, the na'im, the bliss of the frightened person is multiplied. That is why the folk of the garden dwell in a bliss that is renewed at each succeeding instant in all their senses, their meanings, and the divine self-disclosures. They are constantly in delight, in tarab. Hence, their bliss is the greatest of blisses, because of expecting separation and imagining there will not be companionship. Because I guess like when you're in the garden, you see what the Arifin see here now. Since man is ignorant of this level, he seeks unceasing companionship. But the man of knowledge seeks the unceasing companionship of the renewal of bliss and of the discernment between the two blisses so that he may enjoy new bliss. Amazing. What an amazing point. In fact, it is like this in actual fact, even though not everyone recognizes it, nor does every eye and rational faculty witness it. For in actual fact, existence is renewed at each instant. But a person who is ignorant does not witness the renewal of bliss, so he becomes bored. Were this ignorance to be lifted from him, so also would boredom be removed. Boredom is the greatest proof that man has remained ignorant of God's preserving his existence and renewing his blessings at each instant. May God verify us through the most complete unveiling and the most inclusive locus of witnessing. Amen. Okay, then we come on to the heart. So we've got time, I believe. Does someone want to take my place in reading?
I could give it a try.
Thank you, Tina. Brilliant.
The heart. One of the words employed above as a synonym for transformation was taqallub, or fluctuation. From the same root, we have the word qalb, or heart. As a verbal noun, qalb is more or less synonymous with taqallub. The dictionaries define qalb as reversal, overturn, transformation, change, and taqallub as alteration, transformation, change, fluctuation, variableness, inconstancy. Thus, the Sheikh sees the heart as a place of constant change and fluctuation. He finds the divine root of the heart's fluctuation nature mentioned in various hadiths. For example, the Prophet said, "The hearts of all the children of Adam are like a single heart between two of the fingers of the All-Merciful." He turns tashrif it wherever he desires. O God, O turner of hearts, turn our hearts toward obeying thee. In many hadiths, God is called the turner of hearts, musharrif al-qulub, or he who makes hearts fluctuate, muqallib al-qulub. In Islamic texts in general, and Ibn Arabi in particular, the heart is a locus for knowledge rather than for sentiments or feelings. The Quran employs the term about 130 times and often attributes understanding and intelligence to the healthy heart. Ibn Arabi compares the heart to the Kaaba, making it the noblest house of a man of faith. He also declares that it is the throne of God, Al-Arsh, in the microcosm, alluding here to the oft-quoted Hadith Qudsi, my earth and my heaven embrace me not, but the heart of my believing servant does embrace me. This embracing, Sa'a, takes place through knowledge of God, al-ilm bi Allah. The heart possesses such a tremendous capacity, was because of its connection to the All-Merciful, between whose two fingers it dwells. Moreover, according to the Quran, it's the All-Merciful who sat upon the throne, and God's mercy embraces all things. The only other divine attribute which possesses such an all-embracing nature is knowledge. In the words of the angels who bear the throne, our Lord, thou embracest all things in mercy and knowledge. The heart is his throne and not delimited by any specific attribute. On the contrary, it brings together all the divine names and attributes, just as the All-Merciful possesses all the most beautiful names. The infinite capacity of the heart places it beyond delimitation, taqyid, by anything whatsoever. Like being, it is non-delimited, mutlaq, free and absolved from all limitations and constraints. To the extent a person verifies the nature of things by means of his heart, he can understand God and the cosmos. But to the extent that he follows the way of his reason or rational faculty, aql, he will remain in constant constriction and binding. Here the Sheikh points to the root meaning of the term aql, closely connected to the fetter, iqal, used to hobble a camel. Reason strives to define and delimit God, but that is impossible. The heart frees God of all constraints and absolves him of all limitations. The heart alone is able to perceive God's self-disclosures through the faculty of imagination. Surely in that is, in the constant change in the cosmos, there is a reminder of the constant change of the root for him who has a heart, since the heart possesses fluctuation, taqlib, from one state to another. That is why it's called heart, qalb. He who explains heart as meaning reason has no knowledge of the realities, for reason is a delimitation, taqyid. The word aql being derived from fetter. But if he means by reason, which is the limitation, what we mean by it, that is, that which is delimited by fluctuation, so that it never ceases undergoing transformation, then he is correct. We know that one of the attributes of time, ad-dahr, is transmutation, tahawul, and fluctuation, qalb, and that God is time. It has been established that he undergoes transmutation in forms, at each day he is upon some task. If man examines muraqabah, his heart, he will see that it does not remain in a single state. So he should know that if the root were not like this fluctuation would have no support. But the heart is between two of the fingers of its creator, who is the All-Merciful. So he who knows himself knows his Lord. And in the hadith of the fingers, there are divine glad tidings, since he attributed the fingers to the All-Merciful. Hence, he does not cause the heart to fluctuate except from one mercy to another mercy, even though there is affliction, bala, in the various kinds of fluctuation. But there lies in affliction's midst a mercy hidden from man and known to the real, for the two fingers belong to the All-Merciful. In discussing the spiritual station of longing, Raqba, Ibn al-Arabi points out that in Sufi terminology, there are three kinds of longing, all of which take place in the heart. One of these is longing for the reality, al-haqiqa. In explaining the meaning of this expression, he refers to two other spiritual stations, stability, tamkeen, and its opposite, variegation, talween. According to most authorities, stability is a higher station than variegation. But Ibn al-Arabi holds that variegation is in fact higher, since it corresponds to the nature of things. The divine self-transmutation in forms. Hence, he says, the verifiers attain to the station of stability in variegation, al-tamkin fil talween, just as they actualize the heart, which is delimited by fluctuation, so that it never ceases undergoing transformation, as said above. In existence, the reality is variegation. He who is stable in variegation is the owner of stability. The heart longs to witness this reality. God made the heart the locus of this longing to bring the actualization, tahsil, of this reality near to man, since there is fluctuation in the heart. God did not place this longing in the rational faculty, since reason possesses delimitation. If this longing were in the rational faculty, the person might see that he is fixed in a single state. But since it lies in the heart, fluctuation comes upon him quickly, for the heart is between the fingers of the All-Merciful, so it does not remain in a single state in the reality of the situation. Hence, it's fixed in its fluctuation within its state in accordance with its witnessing of the way the fingers cause it to fluctuate. Since the heart is connected to the two fingers of the All-Merciful, mercy is the heart's fundamental reality. It cannot but return to the divine mercy in the end, bil ma'al. This has important eschatological consequences, as Ibn Arabi often reminds us. Do you not see that the heart lies between the two fingers of the All-Merciful? That which causes it to fluctuate is only the All-Merciful. No other divine name enters in upon it along with the All-Merciful. This name gives to it only what it possesses in its own reality, and his mercy embraces all things. Hence, you will not see anything in the heart's fluctuation which leads to distress, ana, chastisement, adhab, and wretchedness, shaqa, unless there is also a hidden mercy along with it, since the heart lies between the fingers of the All-Merciful, who causes it to fluctuate. If he wills, he keeps it straight, iqama, and if he wills, he causes it to swerve, izaga, from that straightness, so this is a relative inclination from straightness. Hence, the heart ends up, ma'al, at mercy by the property of the authority of this name. He whose heart swerves is like him whose heart goes straight. This is glad tidings from God to his servants. O my servants who have been immoderate towards yourselves. Here he does not mention one kind of immoderation, saraf, rather than another. So in this immoderation, he includes all the states of those who are immoderate. Despair not of God's mercy, since that which has made you swerve is a finger all merciful. Surely God forgives all sins. This is a report which accepts no abrogation, nasakh, This verse should be combined with his words, God does not forgive that any should be associated with him. We conclude that a person is punished for his associating others with God as God wills. Then the fingers of the All-Merciful display their properties within him. So he ends up with the All-Merciful. Those kinds of swerving less than associating others with God which are forgiven after punishment. These are the people of major sins, kaba'ir, who will be taken out of the fire through intercession after they have become cold, as long as they have not associated others with him. Faith in this is mandatory. There are also those who are forgiven without punishment, so there's no escape from ending up in mercy.
Tina, thank you so much. MashaAllah. Guys, are there any questions up to this point? And what a passage.
Yes, Dr. Faris. I didn't get this التمكين في التلوين. It's يعني I'm trying to grasp, but if you can just explain more, that would be amazing.
Okay. So there are maqamat in tasawwuf, right? Okay. So like the first maqam is tawbah, then you go up through all the maqamat. One of the maqamat is the maqam of tamkeen. When you are mutamakkin in your obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is the maqam of tamkeen. And you're mutamakkin in your obedience, your ta'ah, and you're mutamakkin in your state, and your himma. Your himma is strong and wanting to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Does that make sense so far? So that's the maqam of tamkeen.
Yes, beautiful, yes.
Okay. So then the opposite is what? Maqam talween. This is the maqam of instability, no stability. You keep changing, right? So normally in tasawwuf, the maqam that's praiseworthy is maqam tamkeen, and the lower maqam is maqam talween, because you're not fixed in your state. Sometimes you have himma, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're going the right way, sometimes you're not. Okay, so normally in tasawwuf, talween is a lower station. Okay.
Yes,
but then,
beautiful. Yes.
But then Ibn Arabi says something else. So هو خالف المتصوفون, right? Or yeah, هو خالف المتصوفين. So what does he say? What does he say? He says Ibn Arabi holds that talween is in fact the higher station. Why? Talween is actually the higher station because it corresponds to the nature of things. It corresponds to the nature of reality. Because in reality, are things ever fixed? No. It's changing every second, right? So the one who's maqam talween is closer to reality. So then he says, right? Especially because it corresponds to the divine self-transmutation in the forms, right? Or what is that in Arabic? Divine self-transmutation. It's here somewhere, but anyways. So that's, so that, كل يوم هو في شأن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly changing his state to suit the purpose of creation, right? This is the divine self-transmutation, right? وَكُلُّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ, right?
Yes.
So because of that, it's actually talween that's the higher station, right? So then he says, so the real awliya, the verifiers, the muhaqqiqun, they attain to the station of something called stability in variegation. So tamkeen fil talween. That means not only is it talween, but they're fixed in being talween. You see, they're fixed in it. It's not like sometimes you're changing talween and sometimes you're mutamakkin, you're in tamkeen. No, here they have the station of tamkeen fil talween. So they're always changing, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always changing in respect to his creation. What's the example? The harba. What's the harba? The chameleon. The chameleon has the station of tamkeen fil talween. Why? Because the chameleon is always changing its color to suit its environment. Always. It's not tamkeen. So, for example, a dog, the color of a dog is tamkeen mutamakkin. It's one color, right? And then maybe something else is sometimes changing, sometimes not, right? Maybe sometimes, so like a snake that sheds its skin will have a slightly different color when it grows the new skin. Or maybe when a caterpillar emerges from its cocoon, becomes a butterfly, it's got a new color, but that's it. So it changes once. So caterpillar metamorphosing into a butterfly changes once. But a chameleon is changing its color all the time. And this change is fixed. He will not stop changing its color. So the true wali is like that. His state, his hal, and his ahwal are constantly changing. And that's fixed. It will never stop changing. The sign of a healthy spiritual heart is that the state of the heart is constantly changing. And the sign of a dead heart, because it's dead, right? The sign of a dead heart is that it never changes.
Yeah.
It never changes.
Yes. That's so beautiful. I've heard this saying. I'm not really sure if it's where it's coming from. That the mu'min has like a 40 hell, 40
Yeah.
state, and
Yes.
the kafir doesn't have is fixated on one state.
This is it.
Yeah.
هذا هو بالضبط.
Subhanallah. It's so beautiful. I love it. That's why I love Ibn Arabi. I love it. I love it. يعني subhanallah. جزاكم الله كل خير.
Allah Barak Fiki. That's why everyone loves Ibn Arabi. So I'll ask this one more point. So why are they called the highest awliya? Because you can have awliya who are middle and they're not the highest. But why are these ones the highest awliya? Because it means they never deny God, whatever state they're in, whatever thing they see. So in each state, they're present with Allah and they'll never deny Him. Which is why when they're present with another belief, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifests Himself in another belief from another religion, they don't deny Him because they're present, because they have tamkeen fil talween.
اللي هي دكتور فارس, it's like why يعني something is coming to me is like the alchemy, you know, when
Yes.
It's like it's the alchemy. It's being an I mean المؤمن is an alchemist because he's just
Yeah.
you know, he's just he's being what do you call it, flexible, or you know, he's adapting to the situation,
Yes.
or he's finding
Exactly.
God wherever he goes. And something else is crossing my mind, you know, the physical Pisces, when you have like two circles and then one in the middle, and then because each situation is pushing like if we are in hell, and then even if we think that it's not a good hell, but this hell pushes you towards another good hell.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then it like, you know, it's like something pushes another, and this is where we get to know God more, I guess.
Exactly. That's why, because the heart is in between the two fingers of Ar-Rahman.
Yeah, subhanallah.
So
جزاكم الله كل خير.
each push is to a new rahmah. Allah barak fiki. Exactly. MashaAllah. By the way, thank you so much for sharing that. Sorry. So Hannah and then Zanira. Yeah, go ahead. Hannah, are you there? Otherwise, we'll do Zanira.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my microphone on. I just thank you very much. That was amazing, Dr. Faris and Sahar. It's that amazing insight thing. And then does that thing about here we've got stability, tamkeen and talween, does that relate back to where we had the sentence of them imagining that they are in each instant, and they in respect of the substantiality, but not in respect of their attributes? Is that connected, this substantiality connected to the word stability? in this
Let
tamkin?
me go back to it. So it was something like here, wasn't it? Or am I going back too
Page
far?
106.
Wait, so if we go back down a little bit, the substantiality thing, I think was it here or was it, I forget where it
It was on
was.
top of the page 106.
Top page. So
Above,
wait,
yeah, between lover and lover, you just, yeah, there, and then stop. So they imagine that they are they in each instant, and they are they in respect of their substantiality, but not in respect of their attributes. So I just,
that's completely connected. Jazakallah khairan, exactly.
yeah,
Because the attributes, by the way, even the substance, is constantly being renewed. So it's
yeah,
constantly undergoing change, which is tanween.
yeah, that's what I meant with the so the substantiality is then this linking to this word
So
stability.
that would be tamkeen. Tamkeen, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then yeah, I think that was it. There was but this whole idea as well about the different stations of going through the stability and then the this thumma amanu thumma kafaru thing where you constantly fluctuating, and then but then there was something that we've talked about here before where he says that when we get through the process of all these different stages of development, we come back to the beginning of our how we were to start with. So that's like to start with, we're in this state of constant fluctuation, but we're unaware and we don't understand why, and we, unbelief, disbelief, blah, blah, blah. We're not verifiers. And then at the end, we go back to that state we were in at the beginning and become verifiers do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, inshallah, Allah will make us reach that station. Ameen.
Ameen ya Rab. Jazakallah khairan, Hana, mashallah. Yeah, sorry, and Zanira.
I like to also this is probably not exactly what the Sheikh meant, but in terms of visualization, I just like to imagine it as like being inside a house. Like you need the structure, the stability, because tamkeen actually comes from makan, right? Which means
Yes.
a house or a place that you're in. And so it's like you need the structure of something that is stable. And it's like, I mean, I'm kind of just looking at the walls and the color. You can paint the walls is different, I guess, but you can be your own, you can flow, but within the structure of the house. You can move around the house. So it's like we actually need both. Like we need both, right? Like we can't just be, if you're just stable, then you're dead, if you're not moving at all. Because I think he also said that life is movement. But at the same time, if you're just moving all over the place, then you're probably insane. Like it's too much for the brain. It's too much for, everything. So it's like, I think even just from like a balance point of view, it makes so much sense. But it reminded me of a few things. I think, I don't know if they're directly connected, but in my mind they connect. One of them was, I think, I read it a few years ago in Ramadan, and he wrote about on fasting. And it said something about, how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if someone stays after praying Fajr, stays in the same place, doesn't move and does dhikr. I don't think he said doesn't move. He said stays in the same place from Fajr till sunrise, doing dhikr of Allah, and then prays 2 rak'ah after the sun has risen, and then a few minutes after that, then for him is complete Hajj, complete Umrah, complete, right? And so I think the Sheikh Al Akbar was commenting on that, and he said, because it's this question about moving, right? It seems there's an emphasis on not moving from that place after having prayed. And so he said something that along the lines, I don't remember exactly, but he said something along the lines of there are people that move physically, but they haven't moved internally from their place, so they haven't actually moved. And there are people who will have moved. And the other way around, basically. And it also reminded me of this poem that I read from Khalil Gibran. It's not the actual poem, it's just the translation, but it sounded so similar. My house says to me, do not leave me, for here dwells your past. And the road says to me, come and follow me, for I am your future. And I say to both my house and the road, I have no past, nor have I a future. If I stay here, there is a going in my staying. And if I go there, there is a staying in my going. Only love and death change all things. So, subhanAllah, I thought it really resonated with the tamkeen and talween. It's like, it looks like, so sometimes it looks from the outside as well that
Yeah.
you are staying or you're stable and you're constant. But I think even the word salik, right? It means someone who is traveling spiritually. And by looking at them, they might actually just be, I don't know, like a housewife or something who's not actually physically going anywhere. And there might be people who, there are, a lot, especially now, a lot of people who travel the world physically, but their hearts and eyes might not be open.
That's
So it's like,
a spiritual sloth.
right. And so it's like, again, the bringing together of opposites, I guess.
By the way, that's such a beautiful point. 2 points you made, Zanira. Allah barak fiki. Yeah, amazing points. MashaAllah. I think this is why my Shaykh considered Khalil Gibran to be a wali. Allahu alam. Anyways, so I think we've come to the end of our session, but I was wondering if we could just stop here because I guess it's a place to stop, non-delimitation. Tina, would you be okay with like just finishing that section?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Thanks so much.
The heart is the place of love for God, since only the heart can know God in order to love Him. The perfect lover of God accepts Him and loves Him in every form He assumes through His self-transmutation. Ibn al-Arabi explains these points in answering one of al-Tirmidhi's questions, what is the goblet of love? Ka's al-Hub. The goblet of love is the lover's heart, not his reason or his sense perception. For the heart fluctuates from state to state, just as God, who is the beloved, is each day upon some task. So the lover undergoes constant variation in the object of his love, in keeping with the constant variation of the beloved in his acts. The lover is like the clear and pure glass goblet, which undergoes constant variation according to the variation of the liquid within it. The color of the lover is the color of the beloved. This belongs only to the heart, since reason comes from the world of delimitation. That is why it's called reason, a word derived from feta. As for sense perception, it obviously and necessarily belongs to the world of delimitation, in contrast to the heart. This can be explained by the fact that love has many diverse and mutually opposed properties. Hence, nothing receives these properties except that which has the capacity, quwwa, to fluctuate along with love in those properties. This belongs only to the heart. In order to ascribe something like this to God, look at his words. I respond to the call of the caller when he calls to me. God does not become bored that you should be bored. When someone remembers dhikr me in himself, I remember him in myself. All the revealed law, ash-shar, or most of it, is of this type. The wine is precisely what becomes actualized in the cup. And we have explained that the cup is identical with the locus of manifestation. The wine is identical with the manifest within it. And the drinking, shurb, is that which is actualized from the self-disclosure in his locus of self-disclosure.
Tina, wonderful. Thank you so much. And indeed, again, what a passage. What another passage. The color of the what was it? The color of the lover is the color of the beloved, and the and yeah. Guys, any last questions?
I think there was one in the chat. Somebody wrote something in the chat.
Was it Aqida? I'm sorry, Aqida. I wanted to come back to you. Tell me.
I feel like you've answered everything. It's just I'm so shocked.
That's a very appropriate reaction to these writings. Yes. No, so being okay, so instability and variegation, being in a state of sin, but they're still present with God, and this kind of thing. Um, so it's hot. So it has many manifestations, but the one that we're talking about, the highest manifestation is in San Kamen. Okay, so who's perfect man, perfect woman. Okay, so someone like, for example, like Sheikh Al-Akbar actually gives examples of this. So, like, say the Nuh alayhi salam, Noah, right? Even though he's a Khalifa of Allah, because all the prophets are Khalifatullah, so he's the vicegerent of God, as are all the prophets. Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, Noah, he had the internal state of an angel, which is being jealous for God's sake, right? So when he called his people, and after everything that happened, there came the last straw, his wrath came upon them, and his wrath was irrevocable. So once he, like once someone like Noah or Nuh alayhi salam is angry with you, that's the end of that. It's like the angels. When an angel has a very pure state. When an angel is angry with you, that's the end of you. No matter how much begging, pleading, this, that, it's done. You're going to get the angel's wrath or the wrath of Noah alayhi salam. That's a fixed spiritual state. That's tamkeen, okay? Um, Talween or tamkeen fil talween is when the Khalifa isn't fixed in one particular state. He responds to every single circumstance with what it requires, which Noah also did. But the one who exemplifies that to perfection is Muhammad. So with Muhammad, if you do something, his state is more like sometimes he's angry, sometimes he's forgiving, and sometimes he pleads with his Lord to forgive you, and sometimes he doesn't, and he moves from one state to another. That's the state of the Khalifa. So even if like it's written in the Quran for like one of the hypocrites, one of the munafiqun, even if you pray over them 70 times, I will not forgive them. Then the response of Rasulullah is, then I'll pray over him more than 70 times, for example, right? Um, and so on and so forth. So his state goes from one to the other. It's not fixed. That's so being fixed in variegation, that's what it looks like. And a perfect human being who is spontaneous and responds spontaneously to each and every new situation with exactly what it requires. Whereas, sorry, I'll give you another example, Aqil. The state of Yusuf alayhi salam. When he's in jail, and then the man comes to him, he says, "Irja ila rabbika," go back to your Lord. Right? The man's calling him to come, please come talk to the Pharaoh, come talk to the governor. So he says, no, I'm happy in jail. So go back to your Lord, right? So he doesn't respond. What does Muhammad say? So there's a hadith where he says, had I been the one called, I would have responded to the call. That's exactly tamkeen fil talween. And the station tamkeen is what Yusuf did. Okay, so and guys, if you gotta go, please don't let me hold you back. I'm just answering questions now. Ghada, so okay, Ghada, you're yes, okay. So the last paragraph, Ghada, is so now he's explaining what the symbols mean, right? So the cup, the gas is you, okay? The gas is you. That's the gas. And the khamar, the wine, is literally, I think it's the state that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you, right? So the cup is you, and the wine is the hal he gives you. And the shurab is the action that manifests from the state that's given to you, which you're drinking. It's as if you're given a state, whether it's qabd or bust, whatever that state is, contraction, expansion, you're drinking from that state. and then an action comes out of your body as a result of that very heavy state, that's called drinking, shurub. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Beautiful, mashallah.
Allah barak fikum. Okay, and Hannah, yes.
So this mentioned about him criticizing Rabi al-Adawiyya. I suppose is then the criticism of her that she is delimiting the states.
Yeah,
Or-
kind of. Kind of. So what it's about is basically, so remind me what was the original point that was made. So Rabi al-Adawiyya, which is kind of saying like, I don't want anything in the garden, right? Because it's hedonism. Yes, that's it, hedonism, right? So this is what she says. She says, look, so there's a verse in the Quran that comes, وهم في what's the exact verse? وهم في شغل فاكهون, something like that. وهم في شغل فاكهون, right? On that day, يوم إذن, right? Something like that. See you, Pastor. Assalamu alaikum. So the verse is talking about the people of the garden who enter the garden and they become very busy with enjoying the delights and the fruits of the garden. So they're reaping the fruits of their labor. They're reaping the rewards in the garden. So then Rabbi is like, look at those guys, those silly people in the garden being absent from their Lord, right? Poor them, poor guys, because they're busy with their fruits. They're not busy with God, right? Right? So then Ibn al-Arabi replies, poor you. Poor you. Why? And then he gives like a very clean and clear justification of what that means, because you miss what God was saying, therefore, because you missed something, you're the one that's poor, actually. So what did you miss? God told you in the Quran, so this is why like the awliya have deep presence with the Quran, because you don't want to miss what the Quran is saying. Indeed, the Quran said in that verse, وَهُمْ فِي شَغْلٍ فَاكِهُونَ. So they are busy reaping the fruits. Okay? But the Quranic verse did not tell you with whom they're busy with. The Quran verse didn't say who you're busy with. Because we know that God is witnessed in the things, and He's the manifest. So you can be busy with God in the fruits. Whether that's rivers of wine, water, and milk, and love, and making love, and palaces, you're witnessing God in those things, as you know Ibn Arabi's philosophy very well. Hence, he criticized her for that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's nice. MashaAllah.
Allah barak fikum.
That's so beautiful, Dr. Faris. يعني that's why I think Sayyidina Muhammad عليه الصلاة والسلام, when we take him as a model, he was engaged in every aspect of this life. Subhanallah. Yani he was sewing, and he was going into war, and he was cooking, and he was helping, and he was feeding, and he was just engaged in this life with all its meaning, because life is a gift. Yani God is giving us this life to live it and discover all His faces and everything that we encounter. So يعني absolutely, if we take Sayyidina Muhammad عليه الصلاة والسلام as a model, this is where we should be going. I mean, follow his lead. It's very clear and it's very يعني subhanallah. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful. And now I got it. Thank you.
That's why he's the uswatun hasana.
أيوة, yes, absolutely. That's so beautiful. subhanallah. ربنا يبارك فيك يا رب.
Allah barak fikum, guys, and kulkum. Jazakallah khairan, guys, and see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Bye-bye.
Wa alaikum salam.